Welcome to Life on Life's Terms podcast. It's Justin coming to you today. This is the Edmonton Folk Fest episode. I will be doing this episode solo. I'd like to thank Edmonton Folk Fest for giving Life on Life's Terms a media pass. It was well used, and I'm going to go through the experience of going to the Edmonton Folk Fest as media. I have many years as going as a spectator, and what a wonderful time that has always been. I think the last 2 years, or actually the last year was the first year that I missed, and regrettably that kind of sucked. So this year, actually the way how it worked out was I bought my weekend pass, and then all of a sudden I was awarded the media pass for the podcast. And yeah, it was a great time. I have some pictures out on our social media platforms of what the hill looked like before and after the people came in. So some of the things that we're going to get into is the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the food, the event itself, and then we're going to talk about the interviews that I was able to secure with John Smith and Courtney Marie at the Edmonton Folk Fest, and we'll get into some of the questions that were asked. They're all basically the staple questions that we have here on Life on Life's Terms. So the first day was pretty chaotic. It was pretty wild to see all these people come into on the Thursday night for all of the shows for that evening. You'd see people walking kind of quickly, yet a little bit aggressively in order to secure their tarp spots close to the stage. And that was all fine and dandy. The first night went on amazing. However, there was some rain for Hozier at the end of the night, but Hozier pushed on and played well into the night and gave quite a bit more than was expected of him, I think. He played well into the night. The pack was released later on that evening, and we emerged onto the little neighborhood that the Folk Fest is put on, and that's up at Gallagher Hill here in Edmonton, Alberta. Yeah, so that was a pretty amazing night, man. Even in the rain, a lot of people stayed. Some people went. I think the majority of the crowd, though, stayed in the rain just for Hozier itself. Folk Fest has always had this kind of, I would suggest, this hippie kind of feel to it. It's very much like Woodstock that is recreated every year here in the Edmonton area, where you have a lot of diehards. It's a rock folk fest kind of a deal, and yeah, so it was a great time on the first night, Thursday night, and then of course the Friday night came, and that again, media was allowed in at 2, so I showed up at 2 for both those days, and the general public was allowed in at 4 o'clock. So that was pretty wild. One of the issues that I thought I would have is the pot. Here in Canada, marijuana is illegal, and so I thought that people would just be smoking it rampant. In previous years, this is the way it always was people would just smoke right there in the bowl in front of the stage, and you could almost see a cloud of haze all of the time. What I noticed, though, this year was that was not the case. They had consumption sites, like over by the beer gardens, I think. I mean, I don't know. I didn't go into that area. So what I do know is that I did not smell the relevancy of marijuana throughout that entire site, as in previous years, where no matter where you went, there was just that green smell everywhere. So I'm really grateful and thankful that this year there was the consumption areas where people would actually go and use those as opposed to polluting the air and intoxicating it for everybody around them. So that was, I was really, really grateful for that. And that was really, really well planned out. And that was throughout the entire festival. I saw some amazing acts that I'll get into here in just a quick sec. So for sure, some of the notables was Amanda Shires. She was amazing. Actually, we were supposed to have an interview with Amanda. Unfortunately, time didn't prevail that we were able to secure that. I think she was just too tight from her doing one performance to the next performance that she was unable to actually come into the media tent. So if we see her again, hopefully that can happen again. Annie DeFranco was amazing. And of course, Blue Rodeo was great. Brandi Carlile was really, really good. Bruce Coburn was there. There was also Courtney Marie Andrews was amazing. We'll get into that interview in just a little bit. There was a lot of great performances. Hosier, of course, was at the top of it all. The Irish Mathan was also really, really great. I caught that at the main stage. I also saw Hooray for the Riff Raff. If you guys haven't heard this band, they were great. And then of course an Edmonton local was Jay Gilday. He's always great. No matter what he's doing. I mean, you can catch him on his Instagram for sure. And then, of course, we secured an interview with John Smith, which we will play a little later on in the show. Then we got into, I also saw, I forget his name now. It'll come to me, though. I saw quite a bit of acts that I wouldn't normally see. Oh, another good one notably was St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Man, if you haven't heard these guys, you really got to go and check that band out. And I'm sure you can get it on YouTube or wherever you get your music. Just punch in that name. His cape was pretty amazing. So yeah, the second day was just jam-packed, man, full of acts, and it was a really good time. I think one of the most notables that I saw was Socks in the Frying Pan, which was amazing stuff. And then, of course, Amanda Shires was just on top of it, man. And then Jason Isbell, who is her husband, was really good. Brandi Carlile closed the show that night, and she did a fantastic job as well. The Harpoonist and the Axe Murders with Dawn Pemberton, that was a great show as well. I caught that early on in the evening. And I guess that was about 7:30 or so. I saw the Harpoonist and the Axe Murderers at Stage 1, and they did such an amazing job. I would look forward to seeing them again. And then also on the back to the first day, Digging Roots was a really good band. They got a hell of a lot of radio play here in the city, that's for sure. They're an Indigenous band from up north, and they came down for all 3 days, I think, of the festival, and they played their asses off. Another really good band that I had a lot of fun watching was Trampled by Turtles. I didn't think that they would. I mean, I thought that they would be good, but they were a hell of a lot better than what I suspected. They have this, for you who are in the sober community, they have this song about codeine. And I think that would speak loudly to those who are recovered, or maybe those who are still using even. Then, of course, on the Saturday, they had all day stuff. So I think I showed up at about 2:00. So I saw Irish Mathan, and then I also checked out Dervish, which was, that's who I'm messing up. My bad. I did not see the Irish Mathan. What I did see was Dervish, and they were amazing, man. They did a really good job. I did check out Courtney Marie Andrews on Stage 2 at 3:00. Then I wound up looking at what was their name here? I caught John Smith that day, and then I saw on the main stage. So John was playing on stage 7 that evening, and then we did the interview a little bit earlier than that show. And we'll play that just here in a little bit. And then, of course, to close it all up was Blue Rodeo. Blue Rodeo played their, normal set that they always play. I think that's a Canadian staple. I was talking with the person that I was there with at, we were talking about how you can't really genre Blue Rodeo. They're just their own sound, and that's just what it is. So when it is that way, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, they are what they are, and either you like them or you don't like them, but I would suggest that the majority of the crowd that day really liked them. The performance by Hooray for the Riff Raff was amazing. I mean, they put on a really, really spectacular show. And also John Smith, one of the things that I recognized with this fellow was that he's just really laid back, man. He doesn't really push things in his life. It doesn't seem like he does anyways. And he's just really, really laid back about the whole kind of music scene and everything. And then we'll get into a little bit about the last day. So I think I had it off to... Belanco White was really, really good. And then I also saw... I'm just trying to look it up here. I saw Henry Jamison at 5. But I also saw J.S. Ondera. This guy, if you guys haven't seen J.S. Ondera, you have to check him out. I mean, the soul that this guy played was just unbelievable, man. It was just unbelievable what he had did. Also, another band, too, was the California Honey Drops. They are just out of this world, man. The stuff that they played was unreal, and I hope that if they ever come back to the Edmonton Folk Fest, I might be able to get a sit-down with them, and we can talk about their creative style. But without further ado, what I'm going to do is we're going to throw in the interview that I did with John coming up right away here. And the recording is kind of shaky, so just heads up, turn it down now. There is some white noise in the background that I was unable to get out. This is the recording that I have, so please bear with me. And anyways, it was a great conversation that we had with John. Hope you enjoy it, and So we have John Smith here on the podcast of Life on Life's Terms. Welcome, John Smith.
Hello.
So how has the Edmonton Folk Fest treated you so far?
Really well, thanks. The hospitality here is probably the best of any festival I know.
Really?
And there's a lot of great festivals, but the thing I like about this one is that it feels like a small folk festival, but there's thousands of people here. But the shows feel intimate, and I showed up, and the volunteers and the organisers all know my name. That means that they've read the program back to back.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what's going on, and everyone treats everyone like they're an old friend.
Yeah.
And I feel very welcome. They also give you free beer, so it's quite a shock coming from Little England, where it's definitely you have to bargain for your items backstage every now and again. It's nice, man. I'm getting the full Canadian hospitality.
That's great, man. I'm glad to hear that. So let's get right into it. Who were your early musical influences to bring you into the folky genre? I heard your workshop just a little while ago. Really impressed at your guitar style. It was amazing, man. So I'm just wondering where it all kind of developed from.
Yeah, well, when I started playing guitar, I was really into the blues, and it was. I think I had the Eric Clapton Unplugged tablature book, and I learned that back to back, and then I got into Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So I was just playing blues and folk folk blues. My dad was really into Muddy Waters and Paul Simon. So it was Americana and blues and folk. And then one day my brother sat me down and played me the record 5 Leaves Left by Nick Drake.
Okay.
Seminal, very important British guitar record. And in the same week, my dad played me Bert and John by Bert Jansch and John Renbourn, another very important guitar record, and it blew my mind. I was exactly the right age. I was 17 years old, or 16 maybe. And in fact I was 16, and it was the summer holiday from school, so I had 6 weeks off, and I got the cassette of both of those records, and I just sat and pressed play, rewind, and learned everything.
Excellent.
And discovered open tunings there and then, and didn't look back.
Awesome, man.
That was my way in, man.
That's great. Do you have a morning routine? And if you do, what is your morning routine?
Not really, because I travel, every week I seem to do at least 1,000 miles or so I just don't know. I wake up wherever I wake up and get on with the day.
And that's
sometimes, like yesterday, I woke up at 3 a.m. I was jet lagged, and so I just woke up and went for a swim. But if I'm at home, I wake up whenever my family tells me to wake up, and then I do what I'm told. Routine is alien to people like me, man. You have to work to find it, and so far I haven't found it.
One of the things that we push here on the podcast is a meditation.
Oh yeah.
Early in the morning for like 5-10 minutes before you go. Kind of gives you a sense of home.
Sure.
Before heading out anywhere. So
oh yeah.
Maybe we could give you that little tidbit from the podcast.
I really appreciate that. I think my meditation is to play guitar.
Yeah.
And if I have time, if I'm in a hotel room, especially a nice hotel room, it takes a lot to get me away from my open guitar case and a nice place to sit. And if I can sit in a room, with the air conditioning turned down low and play scales uninterrupted for half an hour, I come out of that feeling very very zen-like and calm.
That's excellent.
That's always been, guitar has always been my I suppose a sort of mental haven. It's always been something that I can constantly rely on and escape to. From any pressures in the world, I can go and play guitar and feel all right. I'm very fortunate with that.
Excellent. That's probably why you were so good up for that workshop.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, I'm a little I get jet lag going down the stairs, man. I was just sitting there in a daze.
When did you know that this music career was it? This was what it was going to be, and you weren't going to go and like work in the pub on the side or whatever it was going to be, right?
Yeah. It's a good question. I was working 5 of those jobs, struggling to pay my rent, and I was just a sort of classic broke, skinny musician, couldn't afford new shoes, and I was working in a bar. I was working in one bar, then I was working in a coffee shop, then I was working in a car park, stamping tickets when people came in. I had a job in an Indian supermarket 3 days a week, and then the other 3 days a week, because I didn't work Sundays, I always give Sundays to guitar, but the other 3 days a week I worked in a comic book shop. And so I had these 5 jobs going, and I was getting by. And then I got a gig at the Ullapool Guitar Festival in Scotland, in the Highlands of Scotland. I just sent them a CD, a demo, and they offered me a gig and said, come up, we'll pay for your train ticket and put you up. And I said, great. And at the end of the weekend, he handed me £500. And that was way more than I earned in a week, in all my 5 jobs. And then I went, right, okay, I'm going to go self-employed and I'm going to do this. And I did. That week I quit all my jobs, I went self-employed. I continued gigging every night, and then I was broke for about 4 years. Until I started to figure it out, and I was flat broke for a while. But, I did the right thing. It felt good.
As long as your heart's in it, I think we will always excel, provided that it's what we want to do. You feel a part of it almost, you know what I mean? So I think as long as we're doing that, it's our passion and we're living in that passion.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that we get to live in that dream, so to say.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Especially when you've been up the ladder and done hard graft. you appreciate actually getting to just sit and play guitar for people. It's never lost on me. I had a moment in the workshop just then where I was looking at the crowd, looking at people smiling and just thinking, I'm incredibly fortunate to do this. I consider that I get paid to sit on aeroplanes and drive cars and do my accounts and all that stuff. That's the bit I get paid to, but I play the guitar for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so cool, man. That's a really cool perspective, and that's I really like that, man. I like the fact that like the business end is the work end, and then everything else is like just part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the gift that we give, right?
Yeah, it helps me rationalise, some of the longer waits in airports and sitting in traffic jams.
So we'll move to the next staple life on life's terms question, and that's how has addiction or mental health affected you in a personal way?
Well, touch wood, I've never been flat out addicted to anything. I've managed to shake all of the things that really had a grip on me. I still drink, and I enjoy it, but I've never quite let it take over, which I suppose is a blessing. But I've suffered serious anxiety in my time. I was very ill when I was 17, turning 18. I had suffered from meningitis. I just woke up one day feeling sick, and then that night I was in a coma. And when I came to, a few days later, I was emaciated and weak, and it took me 6 months, maybe a year to recover. And in that time, I was very blue, and I guess it was some sort of post-traumatic stress syndrome. But in South Devon, England in the 90s, there were no words for it. So I just had to get through it. And actually, the guitar really helped to heal me. I managed to really focus all of my concentration and all of those thoughts that people have in those situations, wondering if it's all worth it. I managed to focus all of that into an instrument. So I feel, at that point I realised actually the real importance of music. Actually, beyond just enjoying it, I realised that it was a lifeline. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So
it was hard at the time, but looking back on it, it feels good.
Yeah. Do you ever still get bouts of anxiety today? Like if you were away from the stage for a certain amount of time, or away from playing a certain guitar or something like that? Yeah.
Well, it's more to do with like, and yes, I do every day. I have to convince myself to get out of bed some days, but because I do this for a living, it sort of has focused my intent to a degree. Me and my family rely on it, so when I get anxious about work and not having any gigs, I have no choice but to go and find work.
Yeah.
And it's work that I'm the most anxious about. Like a lot of people, I'm getting a little older now. I don't worry so much about myself or how I look or what I say. I kind of care less now, which is good. It's taken me a while to get there.
See, that's why I do podcasting and not radio, because radio has you transcribed what you want to do.
Right.
Podcasting, I can say whatever the hell I want to say, and they're not going to stop me. Right? So
it's nice, isn't it?
Man. It is. Favorite moments on stage throughout your career, what would they be?
Well, I think I had a moment in 2013 where I'd been played on the radio in the UK properly for a while for the first time, and I had a headline show at Union Chapel in London, which is a big room, and I just had a moment where I realised actually what was happening. I'd sold out a big venue and people were listening, and some of them were singing along, and I'd been gigging for about 10 years at that point, and that was the first time it actually felt really solid, like I was having a very, very conscious exchange with the audience.
Cool.
And that has allowed me to experience it. Maybe I've been in the presence of it before and not quite recognised it, and since then that really informed everything moving forward. And now, the downside is that I can tell when I'm having a really bad gig. But it's those moments where people are just sitting there willing to be part of it. That is always an amazing moment on stage.
That's excellent. Was there a progression for you too to get to this stage? Like, did you start out busking, or were you playing like what do they call it? Like open mic nights prior, yeah. So what was that all like? Like, what were the learning curves that you learned busking and doing open mics?
Well, I started gigging really when I was about 14, doing all of that stuff, and then really getting serious about it when I moved to Liverpool, so I was about 20. And I just had to really learn that if you're not doing a good job, people are going to talk over you. And sometimes when you are doing a good job, people are going to talk over you because a lot of the time people are just there to have a fun night out, and they don't care about you and your feelings and your silly sides. So, I just learned how to get people's attention and how to use dynamics to control the room.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's taken a long time. I mean, I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, coming on 30 years, and I still feel like every gig I come away thinking I could have done that better. Still I need to figure out how to do that. So that I feel like I'm still in a progression.
That's cool.
And I still have terrible gigs sometimes. And come away and just want to quit and go back to working in a comic book shop. But every now and again you have a truly, truly great gig, and you feel like you've leveled up a little bit.
Awesome. When you first started out, did you have your own songs written, or were you covering to go play those open mics? And if so, do you remember your first set list that you had when you were gigging?
Yeah, I was 14, and I played at a local folk festival thing, and I played Mannish Boy by Muddy Waters.
Oh yeah. Just
me and an acoustic guitar, and I played, which is a 14-year-old, kid. It's quite must have seemed quite sweet. And Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis.
Oh, awesome.
Obviously, I was, the right age for Oasis.
Yeah.
When they, that was the best song I'd ever heard at that point, so I was singing that one.
That's awesome,
yeah,
man.
man.
So it's just a two-song set.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. First guitar, and where did you get that first guitar?
My dad gave me a red Squire Strat.
Oh yeah.
When I was 11. And I've been playing his guitars till then, and then he gave me this. But I've no idea where it is now. I've moved around so much in my life. I don't hang on to things. I don't have anything from my childhood.
Wow.
I either give it away or sell it, but you just move on. I'm trying not to really own it much. So I don't know where that guitar is. I hope it's in good hands.
Yeah. Do you find kind of like a spiritual connection to your instruments at all, or like Muddy Waters used to talk to B.B. King would talk to Lucille.
Sure.
Right. So do you ever find yourself in that place where there's that sentimentality towards it? I mean, obviously you walked away from your first or lost your first guitar, I guess.
Yeah.
But do you have those specific guitars that have kind of a sentimentality for you?
Not in any, as you say, spiritual sense. For me, it's just a box with strings on it, and it makes a noise. And whenever I play a guitar and I feel like it sounds like I'm playing it, so I'm happy with letting guitars go and getting a new one. But I do have a couple that someone made for me. An English builder called Roger Bucknell. His company is called Filed Guitars, and those are the best guitars I've ever played. So I've got maybe 4 of his guitars, and those are the ones I use. So I'm attached to those because he built them and they sound great. But if one was to get smashed and destroyed, I'd get another one. I've never been that attached to things like that. You know what I mean?
So the impermanence is pretty real with you then, like. If it's here, it's here. If it's gone, it's gone, and that's cool with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll be gone in a minute. We're not around that long.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
There are some guitars I'd like to own, and maybe I'd feel differently if I owned a 51 Telecaster. You know what I mean? I don't, so I don't know what that's like.
I just saw a guitar that Robert Plant was playing. That was Elvis's guitar.
Oh right.
And his face was burned into the side of it, and he's strumming it along. And I was like, shoot, why wasn't he playing guitar? And I was like, oh yeah, it was this guy named Jimmy Page, and that's why he wasn't playing guitar.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's
it was pretty wild to see
Jimmy
that.
Page is that's a great example of someone who had their instrument and their sound. I've never really found the right electric guitar, but whenever I hear Jimmy Page play a Les Paul, it just makes me feel indescribably good.
Excellent.
That to me is the best sound in the world.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Do you have a ritual that you go through in order to write music?
No,
No,
songs fall into my lap.
wow.
I spend a lot of time just writing rubbish, and then every now and again I'll write a good one. But I don't have any warm-ups or methods. I would like to, and I should probably learn how to do that, but I don't.
That's cool.
Yeah, it means I spend a lot of time just feeling frustrated and not really getting anywhere. But 1 in 5 attempts gives me something that I half like.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then your chord progression, do you go through a ritual with that? Like to mix your chord progression with your music? What's that process look like for you?
Just if it sounds good, I'll use it.
Awesome.
That's really. I don't mean to be blasé. It's just that it is that simple. If I play something and it feels good, I'll throw it in a song.
Well, because you hear guys like Jimmy Page where they go through this whole thing. Like if you ever hear the creation of Stairway to Heaven, which is obviously a cliche, right? Like Stairway to Heaven.
Sure.
But if you hear how he actually wrote that music for that song, it was a whole big process that he actually pulled off. And he was trying to put a violin bow in that song and a whole bunch of stuff, right? So some musicians, it's this whole process, and others it's just very simple. Like if you look at The Boss, he wrote Tom Petty wrote a song within like 5 minutes, and it was done, and it was like
That happens
golden
sometimes.
record, like right away, So I just like to see where kind of your style is sitting at, right? Like how you're kind of creating it all together, right?
Yeah, I just don't. I don't really have a. I don't really have an answer for that. I wrote like my most played song ever took me 2 minutes to write, and it's 4 minutes long. And then my second most played song ever took me 6 months to write. So I don't really have any method.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Page stole the lick for Stairway to Heaven, so
Of course, yeah.
I think you have to acknowledge your influences too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just sit there and I play Ry Cooder all day, and then I write something that sounds a bit like Ry Cooder, and I think, okay, I have to dial this back a little bit and get back a little to how I feel I should sound.
So, what does your time off look like?
I just spend it with my family now. I used to. I don't even know what I used to do. I think I just used to drink when I wasn't gigging. And now I've got a little girl, so when I go home I'm dad, and I just that's it. And then I come away on tour and I'm doing this. It's good, man. It's kind of sharpened up my life a bit.
Yeah. How long are you typically on tour throughout the year?
I'll spend maybe 220, 230 days on the road.
Awesome. Are you going to come back to Edmonton Folk Fest?
Oh yeah, man. Well, this is my third time. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the phone book. It's nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'll come back in a couple of years if they want me.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So I think that's the questions and everything that we got so far. I need to ask you for your permission for me to use this on the podcast on August the 10th of 2019. Do you accept?
I fully accept and acknowledge responsibility for any mumbling or swearing that I might have done
No swearing. I was the one who swore.
in this damn podcast.
Thank you so much, man.
So again, I do apologize for that recording. I tried to edit it as best as I possibly could. I'm not sure how that white noise came into the background. Anyways, what we did do was we did those, wonderful staple questions that Life on Life's Terms always asks, which we basically did the same conversation with Courtney Marie. And one of the reasons why we did this was because you see the difference between the two kinds of artists themselves. And like I said, John really comes off as somebody who's just really nonchalant about the whole thing. And then with Courtney, what we'll see is it's a little bit maybe more of a challenge with Courtney in the context of she just I don't know, man. She's just her style is. I think what I am getting at here is that I can empathize with the fact that maybe sometimes life is a little harder than what I think it is, and I can also suggest that with John's style, it's very much what comes to him is what comes to him, and he's an easy breezy guy. That's kind of like my younger brother. And myself, man, I guess things just aren't that easy for me, and I think this is where Courtney and I kind of are similar. So here's the interview with Courtney, and then yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy this also. So this is Justin with Life on Life's Terms. We're sitting with Courtney, and we're going to ask Courtney today, how has Edmonton Folk Fest been treating her so far?
Edmonton Folk Fest is full of very kind and helpful people. It's treated me very well. The audiences have been also very nice, and everybody they've paired me with for the sessions has been really great. And it's met a lot of wonderful people, and it's been honestly just an overall great experience.
Awesome, that's great. I just saw your workshop, and I saw your workshop yesterday as well, I think it was. So I got to ask you also, the dog Tucker.
Yeah.
So there was tears in the crowd. I don't know if you saw this, but there were people crying. So I got to ask you about your dog Tucker. How long ago did Tucker pass away? I'm assuming that Tucker passed away, or no, or yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Tucker passed away, I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago. Probably leaning on 3 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a huge inspiration to write that song, right?
Yeah. I feel like so much of that house that I was living in, I wrote the song This House about the house I was living in, and so much of that house for me was Tucker, and he was tied to it so much, and my memories there. So yeah, he was a big part of my life at that time.
That's awesome. So I'm going to actually, with my co-host, I'm going to go into more of that story, because it's kind of a personal story with Life on Life's Terms. When that song came out, our sound person started crying as that was happening. So we'll get into a little bit of that on the podcast later on. So the other question that we have is, who were your musical influences growing up?
Growing up, well, in the early days, my mother listened to country music, so I listened to a lot of that, and I sort of expanded and started listening more like soul and R&B. That led me to Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
And then eventually, in my early teen years, I sort of got into more punk music. I was really into feminist punk and
Awesome.
and Bikini Kill and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I've sort of gone all over the place, but I feel like those really early years, like soul and country, sort of influenced my sound the most. Like those two genres of like are in my soul. Like, so.
Yeah, that's excellent. So this is a huge staple question for Life on Life's Terms. Do you have a morning routine, and if so, what is your morning routine? If you don't mind sharing with us.
Well, it's widely known amongst my band member and team that I am obsessed with yogurt parfaits, and I have one every single morning. It doesn't matter. My morning routine changes. Sometimes I run, sometimes I do yoga, sometimes I meditate, but the yogurt parfait remains the same.
Awesome. So do you find that morning routine kind of gives you like a feeling of home no matter where you're at on the road? Like just knowing that it's there?
Yeah, it's definitely a stress reliever. It's like also very grounding, Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. So the next question that we have is, what is on your playlist right now? Like, what are you listening to in the moment?
Oh man, what am I listening to? Let me think about that. I've been listening to I'm sorry, I'm like in writing mode, so my playlist is not very good right now. As far as it's very good, but it's it's a lot of this same stuff. I've honestly been listening to the same Bob Dylan record over and over again. Telltale Signs. It's a B-sides record. I've listened to that a lot. I've also listened to a lot of Leonard Cohen. I've just been listening to a lot of, like, when I'm in writing mode, I tend to like go to my my go-tos. But as far as new music that I like, I love Julia Jacqueline. I love Lizzo. I love just listen to the Highwomen's like new song. They're great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what is actually the writing process for you? You're saying you're just saying that you're in writing mode right now. So what does that process look like for you?
It means hell. No, it really is. I absolutely adore writing. It's probably my favorite part of the entire job, if I'm being completely honest. But it's a lot of, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Especially when the more you do it, the more you become more critical of the words you write, and you just want it to be, the best songs ever written. Like, you're trying to do that, that's really hard. So my process generally involves me going away from everything, every distraction. Sometimes a cabin, sometimes like I just went to Lisbon, Portugal for like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I wrote there for that whole time because it's just removing myself from friends and family and just living a alternative life.
We were actually trying a social media diet over the weekend, but of course, doing a podcast, so on and so forth, that was shot right out the window.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not happening. And then social media diet really takes place when we go hiking.
Yeah.
Because then, like, there's nothing, right? And then you finally get to, so it's 4 hours of work, hiking to the campsite. Then you get there, and there's nothing. There's nobody. It's just mountains and whatever.
Huge. Hiking's huge for my creative process. Walking, hiking, it's so good for clearing the head. It's
That's
just
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you do quite a bit of overnight hikes? Like, have you gone on a longer hike?
I have. I've done a couple. I've never done more than one night.
Oh, wow.
But I've always, one of my dreams is to do a through hike, whether it's the Camino de Santiago or there's an island actually outside of Japan that has, I think it's like Shikoku or something like that. It's like 88 Buddhist temples like on this island, and you can hike to every single one for a month. So it's definitely like a bucket list thing. It's just finding the time to do that with my career is really hard.
Yeah. If you ever are interested, check out the West Coast Trail here in Canada. That is amazing, and through BC, and Parks Canada takes care of you very, very well. Like, it's a very maintained trail. It's very manicured and stuff, really. So it's really cool, man. So the next question I have here is, when did you know that music was going to be your career? Like, you weren't gonna have a part-time job, you were just all in music, and that was that.
Honestly, this sounds so obnoxious, but I've known since I was like 5 years old. Like, the moment that I started singing, it was all out the window. I didn't want to do anything else. Never expected to go to college. Never had any doubts that that's what I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very
great.
Annoying, but
I was just talking with somebody a little while ago about how I always wanted to be in radio, but I didn't really ever like reading like a script that somebody told me that I had to say. So now I'm in podcasting because radio just isn't for me. I don't like the whole manicured thing about it, and that's why I like podcasting. I can say whatever I want to say, and nobody's over my shoulder saying, "Hey, what did you do that for?" Right?
Yeah.
That's great. So the next question that we have that's a staple here on the podcast is, how has addiction or mental health affected you?
It's affected me hugely. It runs in my family. My grandmother and my uncle both have unfortunately died due to mental health reasons, and yeah, it's a huge part of my awareness and consciousness. It's my mother talked a lot about it growing up, and I'm very aware of my own mental health problems because of that, and so it's affected me. I think as a songwriter, you're generally very empathetic and very in tune with other people's feelings, and that can cause a lot of social anxiety and a lot of depression, and so I've definitely battled with those things over my life. But there's certain things you can do, like go on a hike. I've learned little like tricks. So
I go to meetings still. Like, I'm 6 years sober. I'm 6 years sober on August 15th, actually.
Oh,
so
congrats.
yeah. So I still go to meetings today. I still work with people in regards to like 12-step programs and stuff like that. So it's definitely saved me up to this point. I understand what you mean by like using those things in order to get you through, right? Yeah. It's a whole new world when you get sober, right? So let's talk about those great moments or those memorable moments that you've had on stage. Could you take us back to one of those moments?
Yeah, one that came to mind as soon as you said that was I played this festival in Wales called Green Man Fest, and Aretha Franklin, who is pretty much I learned to sing by listening to her records and Joni Mitchell records. Those two women is how I learned to sing. And so when she died, it was very hard for me. It was very emotional, and I was like, the band and I had not done this song at all. I just knew it was in, it's one chord all the way through. Chain of Fools, pretty much one chord all the way through, and I'm like, I know they'll be able to pick up on it. And I said that right before I said, I'm like, maybe we'll do it. And it was raining the whole entire festival. It was muddy, and everybody was kind of miserable, and like, we got on stage, and I'm like, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. And the band was sort of like on their feet about it, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I got this like passionate feeling that I needed to do it and honor Aretha. She had died the day before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do it. Let's do Chain of Fools. And then literally right as we started playing Chain of Fools, a beam of sunlight came and like shined right on our stage.
Man.
And like it was just like a huge rainbow had like shown up, and we were just like, okay, this is definitely like, I mean, I don't know if you believe in that stuff, but it was just like a sign from the universe that, or just like a little pat in the back, or like a little hug from Aretha, or just like, thanks for honoring me kind of thing. And I don't know, it was just a really beautiful moment, and the whole crowd was just crying, and it was just like I don't know. It was one of those magical, beautiful stage moments.
I think every artist has that, though, right? Like, there's that thing, and it's almost like that feeling is what we get addicted to almost. We always want to go back to that and find it somewhere else. And when it comes, it's just so organic in the way that it happens. We can't recreate it yet.
Yeah.
We continue to go on looking for it, right? Like, even doing this, the interviews, keep going back to that great interview that I had, always looking for that one again and again, and it's just organic. I can't make the environment do what it needs to do. It's just gonna happen.
Can't manufacture magic.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. So first guitar, where'd you get your first guitar?
I got my first guitar, my mother got one for me, a Squier Strat Pack for Christmas. Yeah, and it was so incredible. She was a single mother, so every Christmas it was like, I might be able to get you this.
Yeah.
We'll see. And that one, it happened, and I was just like, man, it was the best Christmas ever.
Yeah.
I was probably like 12.
Awesome.
Oh, actually, no. That wasn't my first guitar. I'm so sorry. My uncle got me a guitar when I was about 8 years old. He married a Mexican woman and lived in Mexico, and brought me his nylon string guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And that was actually my first guitar, but I didn't know how to play it all yet.
So did you kind of figure out the finger picking though on the nylon?
That's funny. I have these like very vivid memories of like not understanding. I thought when a string had broken, I thought it was broken. I thought the guitar was just broken. Like I couldn't repair it. I had no idea. Music was not my family.
Yeah.
And so I remember having like strumming my hand along the strings and like seeing how different notes made difference. I don't know. It's just like a vivid memory. So
yeah, that's really cool, man. Do you still have that first guitar? Do you still have that Strat?
I still have a Strat. I don't still have a nylon. I have no idea where that went.
Is your Strat named?
I never named my guitars.
No?
I named my vans, but not my guitars.
Yeah. So let's talk about the van that you were talking about up in the workshop.
So my first van is named Little Orphan Vanny. And then the second one, the one that's now I have is the one I have now is the Jambulance.
Right on.
Because it's more for the band.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what does your schedule look like? How many months out of the year are you touring?
Probably like 7 to 8. Yeah. Quite a bit.
And then a typical day off, what does that look like for you?
Well, if it's in the States, it's generally driving. But if it's anywhere else, if I'm lucky, I honestly, my favorite thing to do in the world is just walk. Like, when I'm not writing music or reading, or I just like to walk.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Who taught you how to play guitar?
I taught myself. Yeah.
Right on, from like
I had one guitar teacher for one lesson, and that was it. Yeah, my mom couldn't. We just didn't have enough money for lessons, and so I just like learned by listening to artists I liked. Same with singing.
Well, I remember my mom said to me when she got me my first guitar, she said, I have to get you a guitar because you'll never get laid on your own. You're just not good looking enough. That's literally what she
Oh my
told me.
God, Jesus! That's not a very nice thing to say.
That's how I got my first guitar. And then my mom
Wow.
was dating a musician and then was like, you should probably teach him how to actually play that thing because he needs all the help he can get.
Wow.
My mom was very real about it. We grew up
Yeah.
very, very poor.
Yeah.
And that was just like growing up, we would go to the shelters a lot to eat dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I thought those were restaurants. So my friends would be like,
Oh, that's so funny.
my friends would be like, where do you do groceries or whatever? Like, because I would come like with no lunch.
Yeah.
Right, and stuff like that. So I get teased a lot. I'd be like, oh yeah, well I get to eat at a restaurant every night, but it was really the damn Hope Mission.
Oh my
That's
God.
weird.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea.
That's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
story.
Well,
I mean, it's sad, but it's like a great
it's funny
story.
though,
Yeah, it's
right?
funny.
Yeah. I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
So if you were to give any word to the wise or word from the wise to those who are starting in the music business, what would you tell somebody who's starting in the music business today?
You gotta love playing on the streets before you expect to play on the big stages.
So I'm suspecting you busked.
I did. But, for me, I didn't ever think about any of the big stuff, ever. Which may be detrimental in some ways, but, I loved it so much, I didn't care if I was playing on the street or, obviously I was always trying to be better and get better gigs and stuff, but I was happy to just play, and I think, a lot of people expect to play and then they'll be, playing to 10,000 people the next night.
Yeah.
And I just think you gotta love the dark side of it, the hard parts too, because it's such a huge roller coaster career. Some months you're like a rock star and some you're not. It's just mentally too. It's just how it is. So I think you just gotta really love it. You just gotta love music you gotta be a lifer. That's what we call musicians who do it for life. Gotta be a lifer. Yeah.
I was also asked that there was a story about Dolly Parton.
Yeah. I was playing Newport Folk Fest last week, 2 weekends ago, and Brandy Carlisle surprised everybody by inviting Dolly to the festival, and we all got to sing backups for Dolly Parton.
Wow.
On 9 to 5. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it was
that's
amazing.
Yeah. Well, those are the staple questions that we have here. I just got to ask you on the record, do you give permission for me to use this on the podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And
Great.
yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So here's the true story. So the person that I had taken as media for audio, this song came on about Home from Courtney Marie, and they just started bawling as soon as Courtney said a statement called "Soul Dog," my soul dog. And this person was basically just blubbering all the way through the majority of the song. And so it became almost like a meme between friends. I wonder, do you guys get that where it's like this meme between you and your friend or you and your coworker, so on and so forth, that kind of just it's like an ongoing joke, basically, of remember that time when we were at Folk Fest and they said soul dog, and they started talking about the death of their dog and how their home wasn't a home because their dog was gone, and you just started bawling your eyes out, and you start laughing because you recognize how silly it might be or how difficult that might be. So yeah, that was the whole deal there, man, where basically somebody just started pissing out of their eyes because Courtney was talking about the death of a dog and all that stuff. So that was that. I hope you guys enjoyed the interviews, and I hope the sound isn't too bad. We ended up going in with just our cell phone on this one. We were unable to secure any reputable recording device. Like I said, edited it the best that I could, but I think it still came off pretty good. You guys just might have to mess around with your volume control a little bit. But I hope that, you guys liked the coverage of the Food Fest, of the Folk Fest. I'm just reading my notes here, and the food there was fantastic. We went and had some food from Pad Mandy's, so shout out to Pad Mandy's, and also Curry and Hurry. We went there, and then there was also Fat Frank's, which is a staple here in Edmonton. So shout out to all those guys. Another great big shout out to Wood Picks. These picks, man, I'm telling you what, if you're a guitar player and you need some depth or some brightness to your acoustic guitar, these Wood Picks will really help you out. So go check them out. We're gonna put it in the bottom here of how you can get to those Wood Picks. They are a Calgary-based company. They're about $3 a pick, but believe me, you can't go wrong with these things. They really do change your playing style all like collectively. I'm going to leave you with one of my final thoughts about the Folk Fest and what I experienced there. I kind of believe that Folk Fest in itself is a spiritual awakening. You know, we watch media and we hear all of these horrible, nasty things that happen in life and how crazy all of that is. And what we experience at Folk Fest, and I'm not kidding when I say there's probably a number of like 8,000 to 9,000 people that emerge onto this hill, Gallagher Hill, which is a ski hill here in Edmonton. We call it the Bowl. And they're probably some of the most kindest people you'd ever meet in the context of where we are at that moment. And what I recognized is that the experience of Folk Fest is a true testament to how wonderful and amazing humanity can be. It doesn't matter your spiritual persuasion, whether it be this religion or that religion. The fact of the matter is when you're there, there's this tribal beat, this beating of a drum where, you know, you can leave your tarp for hours upon hours or your blanket on the hill and nobody's going to take it and chuck it and throw it or steal it or any of that stuff. It's just a humanity at its most kindest in the moment of 4 days. And it's pretty amazing to see this happen time and time again, and how this is basically, humanitarian goodness that has dividends year after year after year. And I think this is the reason why it's almost a pilgrimage for a lot of Edmontonians, as well as people from all around the world and also all over Alberta and even Canada, who go to this thing in order to see not just the bands, but also experience that innate goodness and humanity that's prevalent right in front of them. You know, there's a mutual respect amongst everybody who's on that hill, that we're here to observe and witness this music and this culture that we have at these folk fests. But also, what seems to be the most prevalent is this unspoken positivity bond. You know, this bond that we're just there to be a community in regards to just helping each other out and being positive with each other. It's an amazing festival to be a part of. So if you haven't come to the Folk Fest, I would strongly encourage that you do come, because it is an experience unlike anything else that you would ever experience anywhere else. As I opened the show, it's a feeling of Woodstock, man. When you hear what people talk about when they talk about Woodstock, way back when that thing first happened, that's Folk Fest every year, again and again here in the Edmonton area. And so I've experienced that feeling time and time again while being an observer at the Folk Fest, and I had the great privilege of being media at the Folk Fest. I hope that next year we will have another opportunity to be media again at Folk Fest. I can tell you that I was tired by the end of the 4 days. It felt like I busted my ass all the way through that thing, and I'm grateful that I did. And I felt by Monday I was going through stimulus withdrawal. So that was my experience at the Edmonton Folk Fest. I maintained sobriety. On the 15th of this month, I just claimed 6 years. And yeah, man, so if you're out there trudging the road to destiny of happiness, keep trudging because it gets better by tomorrow. An attitude of gratitude will always make tomorrow better, even in your darkest hour. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for listening and participating in this Friday show. Our social media stuff, you can get us at Life on Life's Terms on Instagram, Life on Life's Terms podcast, that is. You can also get us on our Facebook page. There is no more blog. We just put an end to the blog this week. It was just becoming too much, man. And if you want current and up-to-date affairs of what's going on with the podcast, best places to get that is at minds.com or our Facebook page. That's where we're going to be pumping out all of our real-time announcements, and also you can catch our videos on Twitter and also Instagram. Again, hope you guys had a wonderful, fantastic Friday, and if you haven't been to the Folk Fest, Edmonton Folk Fest, please go and do so next year. Bye for now.